It's July 6th, 2020. This is Roqe. Look back at the history of any of us that originally come from the Middle East, and there is no shortage of disruption. And the kind of disruption we've experienced is often skewed negative, but it's quite something else to be a successful disruptor, especially in the business and technology world. A disruptor shaking up the boys club, say, of usual suspects in Silicon Valley. How about a woman who comes to North America as a refugee from Iran, only to become one of the most influential tech entrepreneurs of the day? Fay Arjomandi joins me to discuss disruption, determination, development, and a new invention for dealing with COVID-19. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. This is Roqe. Yes. Hi there. Welcome to episode number 24 of Roqe. Hope you are all doing okay out there. Hi, Groovy Shaya.
Hello.
Khubi?
Khubam, 24. That's
24 episodes.
Wow.
I think in a week and a half, it's our 3 months of this baby show.
Yes.
Almost a toddler.
Yeah. Toddler, actually, I don't know what does it mean, but
toddler means it's one step of development past baby.
Oh,
like I think toddlers can walk or crawl. Like baby, it's not just a baby that's in a cradle anymore. It's a toddler. I ask you how you are. We come in here and we're getting ready for the show, but I don't actually ask you how you are. So now I say, Khubi, how was your weekend?
My weekend, actually, I just stay home, work on some project that I have to spend some time on it. And creating some new music.
Nice.
Yes. How was your weekend?
I also stayed home for the weekend. On the weekend, I was invited to this. They said it was a gathering. It was a Iranian gathering, and I thought, I wonder if this is like how big this gathering is. I didn't end up going, but then my friend who went sent pictures. It was a full-on Mehmooni. There was probably 50 people there.
50,
and
50.
Wow. I mean, it was like party. It was like people dressed up, Iranian, and there was this like the big sofre, with inside. And I was thinking, like, I don't know if I'm particularly sensitive because I'm living in downtown Toronto, so we're very careful still, worried about COVID and all that. But is this like obviously it's not just the Iranian community, because you see what's happening in the United States. They're not all Iranians, but there's something about it that was just like I said to a friend of mine, and she was like, like why are we so irresponsible? Or maybe am I just being a stickler? I don't know.
Actually, I think same as you think. It's 50 people.
I mean, I don't know how many people were there. It was packed. When I saw these pictures, it was packed, and everybody looked like. I mean, they were having a great time, I'm sure, but I couldn't. It was like, okay, I guess it's over. Let's have a big Mehmooni. Let's have a big party. It was very strange.
It's illegal, though, huh?
I think in Ontario, it is still illegal, yes. Or I don't know. There's different rules for in the city than outside of the city. This might have been just north of Toronto, where a lot of the Iranians live. But anyway, it was, so I didn't go. But who knows where this is all going. There's a lot of confusion, I guess, around the reopening post-COVID. Thankfully, the numbers for now are quite low in Canada. Well, I'm actually very interested in this guest that we've got today, Shaya, because she is a different voice from what we've had on our show so far. A successful business person, a successful entrepreneur. And when you think of a stereotypical corporate leader coming out of Silicon Valley, we're not always socialized to think of a woman who came to the West as an Iranian refugee. And our guest today is perhaps the definition of an Iranian expat success story. Fay Arjomandi is a thought leader and entrepreneur who is a specialist in wireless communications, software applications, and protocol development. She has authored 12 patents. She's co-founded 3 startups that built location-based services, quality of service, and multimedia content distribution platforms used by mobile operators globally. She has been named one of the most influential women business leaders in Silicon Valley and is now one of the leading pioneers in developing technology that can be used to track the spread of coronavirus without compromising the identity and personal data of users. This privacy concern is a big one, of course. But in addition to all of that, what is perhaps just as remarkable as her business success is the testing journey that Fay has had to navigate to reach this point. Right now, Fay Arjomandi joins me from Los Angeles today. Hello, Fay.
Hi, Jian. How are you?
What an honor it is to do this with you. Thank you for taking the time out of, I know your busy schedule. I really appreciate you doing this.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Listen, Fay, let me start with this. It's no secret that COVID-19 is on the rise again in the United States, and particularly in California, where you are located. I was thinking about you, and I was thinking the traditional thinking would be that of all the sectors, those working in technology and anything to do with the online space would be immune to the way the global pandemic has affected business. That is, in fact, your sector would be somehow thriving while others figure out how to reorganize for a world living with COVID. Is that true? Is business booming in the high-tech world?
I believe so, yes, mainly because obviously right now we're in the bit of a chaotic situation, but there was this notion of digital transformations that across all industry was a point of discussion in terms of how do we transform our business to a digital business? How do we bring things, processes to digital? And it was more a nice to have and planning and let's talk and let's plan. But all by sudden, because of COVID-19, everything went digital. Right. And companies and those who already have a digital solution, they realize that the solution is not as scalable as they were expecting it, as secure as they were expecting it. Those who were not on their digital journey, they realize that they're falling behind, and therefore there is a kind of acceleration to go digital. So it is, in a sense, accelerating that trend.
So is it fair to say that if you work in the tech world, you probably have one of the more safer jobs than anybody out there globally right now?
You could argue that, but it also depends. It depends on if you had a digital solution, what was the objective of that digital solution? For example, if you're working in Uber and the main business of the Uber and the platform that they're developing is about taking passengers from one location to another location, obviously COVID-19 has impacted. And in fact, Uber closed one of their office on one of their projects down in San Francisco. But at the same time, in other sectors, you could say that is booming. Like when you look at the stock price of Amazon and you look at the stock price of Apple, you look at the stock price of companies such as Fastly and others, you will see that actually their stock price is going up to the moon. So it really depends on which sector of digital technology you're in.
Listening to you, first of all, it's a testament to when I think about the companies you've built, the patents you've created, the life journey and business success that you've had, and even listening to you talk now, it's a testament to the idea that Fay Arjomandi dreams big. You have the ability to dream big. Most people shy from dreaming too big because they believe it's unrealistic or maybe even immodest to have grandiose aspirations. But of course, if you don't dream it and believe it, it can never happen. How have you created the conditions for yourself where you allow yourself to dream big?
I think living the life that we lived in Iran, right? So I was grade 5 when the revolution happened, and 6 when the war between Iran and Iraq broke, and then I was in trouble for telling a joke about one of the Shia clerics, and then finally I had to escape Iran at the age of 17. I think when you live that kind of a life and then you end up in being in a survivor mode and figuring out your life, you automatically think bigger than maybe average people, because it's almost like, okay, if I left that life and if I manage to be where I am today, it's not about tactical steps, but it's about thinking big and knowing that the opportunities are huge and you can just make it happen. And it's very important to mention that, yes, I did a lot of things, but I wouldn't be able to do them without a collaboration and a strength of a team that were always around me and supported me, or I recruited them and joined the company. So it's also about that, being able to, throughout your life and journey, almost curating the people that you see have the same passion and have the same vision and share the same philosophy in life with you.
How do you learn to do that? To curate, to surround yourself with the right people?
Obviously, it wasn't something that I engineered, but I'm a learner. I consider myself a person that learns constantly versus a knower, right? And I have the curiosity to learn, and I like to always explore opportunity. Again, when you grow up in an environment that schools are like military, your parents always want to protect you from that the situation of Islamic Republic of Iran, and then the traditions is on the other side that you're fighting it. You realize that what you are being told as a norm, it's not norm, and you constantly everything become a question. And if you are curious about those questions, you want to start learn. And as you meet people in your life, you learn from them, and over time you stay close to those that have the same passion and vision and philosophy in life, and you feel like you're learning from them and they help you to be a better person every day. And that's how I keep close to all those people. And obviously you start the border of friendship versus business partnership versus family start dissolving. We become just human beings that have the same vision and want to do the same thing, and you start working with them and you grow your life from there.
I'm glad you talked about growing up as a way to how you've become this person who dreams big, or perhaps always were this person who dreams big. Because I wanted to go there. One of the truisms I think I've been propagating since we started Roqe is that almost everyone of Iranian descent in the diaspora has some harrowing tale in their past as a result of the tumult, the change, the decades in the aftermath of the revolution in Iran. You are certainly no exception. You just alluded to it there, although you skipped over it pretty quickly, and I want to get into it because it's very interesting. You end up leaving Iran at the age of 17 because you got in trouble with the Islamic regime authorities. You may not be able to go into the details, but what can you tell me about what happened?
What happened is that I think grade 7, I told a joke about one of the Shia clerics in a school to a group of best friends. And one of those best friends decided to go and sell me out.
Wow. This is before you knew how to surround yourself with the right people.
Of course, yes, right. of course. And it was yesterday in my conversation with one of your colleagues that I said, you know what, for the first time, I realized that you kind of experience betrayal at that age. And subconsciously, without I even realize it, I didn't let that scar me and make me a person that mistrust others. I continue trusting others until they prove themselves wrong. But that's what happened, and that stayed with me. That kind of a state, that trouble stayed with me and continued on during my schooling until it get to a point that I couldn't stay there and I had to escape.
But so the person told on you, and then you given some kind of detention, or what did how did it play out exactly?
Yes, I got some kind of detention. I got asked by my parents to come to school, and I was questioned by some of the Revolutionary Guard, and I had to deny it, and then that kind of I stayed home for a few weeks. And then after that, I was allowed to go back to school, but I was always on their monitor by everybody, And at the same time, I was just a rebel, I was just this kid that wanted to live her own life and be a teenage. So in addition to those issues, I was always picked on in a school by principal and everybody for mainly basic stuff like complaining about what I wore and my haircut and how I walked and things like that. So again, all those things came hand in hand, and finally I had to escape at the age of 17.
If I can just stop for a second, it becomes so commonplace, especially in our community and in our diaspora, because so many people have stories like this, to sort of roll your eyes and go, oh yeah, the Islamic authorities did. It really is, if you zoom out for a moment, and I guess from the perspective of sitting in North America, it really is remarkable. You told a joke. As a kid tells a joke in school, and this affects the trajectory of your life. It is really remarkable sometimes. These stories that become, we've heard enough of them that it's not a surprise, but it really is kind of shocking to me still that this, people went through, so many people, including everyone, all of my lineage too, that went through these stories, have been through these stories, and they continue in Iran. So when you decide to leave at 17, does your family leave with you, or do you go by yourself?
I was by myself and fled to Dubai. And the joke is that I left the Argo style, the movie Argo, where they had to get fake passport and everything.
You did all that. You got the fake passport, and
so that's how I left. Yes.
And so that must have been emotionally scary, intimidating for you as well. You're leaving everything you know, including your family, and off on some kind of journey. What was your mindset at the time?
You know what? I wasn't thinking about any of these things. It's just that I was put in that situation, and I just had to get it done. Obviously, scary, but I thought through those experiences quite a lot. I was trying to think about what I was thinking in that time. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly how I was feeling. I do remember that I was sad and obviously scared, but anything else is almost like it's a distant memory. And I can't exactly remember whether it was like how it felt or anything. Obviously, every time I think about it, sadness and fear comes to me, and I'm also quite shocked that how could I just say, yeah, let's leave. let's go.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
You know, without thinking about any of these things. It was almost part of
Well,
life, Jian.
sometimes we're braver as teenagers than we, even though we're also scared as teenagers. We're braver than we might be later in life, and that seems to be the case with a lot of Iranians who, find the strength to make this kind of move and are determined to get out. Sorry, what were you going to say? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, no. I was going to say that this was part of life. When you grow up with a struggle and you're constantly scared because, I mean, you go out in the street and the Revolutionary Guard stop you. You have a party with your friends. Actually, I was in a wedding, and all by sudden the Revolutionary Guard just attacked and destroyed everything, and we had to run with high heels. We had to run and escape by jumping over a wall, right?
Right.
So that fear and that fight grows in you and with you, so it becomes a normal thing, right? It almost like it desensitizes you about it. So and funny thing is that when I look back and look at my experience, and then I compare myself with what's happening in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, and I feel like I was still part of the lucky genes. I didn't have to go through all the misery,
Yes.
unfortunately, the misery that they are going through today.
You did have to
So,
actually go on this obstacle course of places that you went to before you got to North America. I mean, you seem to have taken the longest route imaginable. Where did you go after Dubai? And tell me about these stops you make on along the way before you get to Canada, I suppose, and what you took from those experiences.
sure, I lived in Dubai, after that Sweden, after that Turkey. Then I moved to Canada, where I landed in Toronto, few months in Toronto, then about a year and some in Ottawa, and then about 3 years in Montreal, and then 11 years in Vancouver, and then moved to Bay Area and lived between Bay Area, London, UK, and Spain for a while because of my work with Vodafone, and then I moved to LA.
So hang on a
So
second. So
it's
when you're in Sweden, for example, or Turkey, or as this woman in her early 20s who's fled from Iran, what is your life like?
always trying to learn from where I was, and again adapt to the culture, pick the good things from the culture, detox myself from the bad things of the tradition, and combine the two together and make a better cocktail for my life. So in Dubai, the first thing I did was actually started a hair salon. I was fascinated about being a makeup artist in my early, younger life. And then when I moved to Sweden, obviously I was a refugee, and I immediately applied for a job. I immediately said that I want to get a job and I want to work. I want to learn the language and I want to get a job and I want to work. So I went to school to learn the Swedish language, while at the same time I got a job as a in a kitchen of a school. And my first day of job was to bike to work at 4 a.m. And then the first task that I was given was a bucket of 300 cooked eggs that they told me to peel it.
Oh my God.
And they taught me how to peel it with the side of my thumb versus with the nail, because that goes faster. But despite a lot of challenges, I was feeling that, oh, how lucky I am that I'm here, I'm learning, it's something new. Never felt sorry for myself. Never felt like, oh, I was such and such in Iran. I had a comfortable life, like I had a good life with my parents and this and that. And now I have to come and be a clerk in a school kitchen. That's how life was. And over time, I learned the language better and better, to the point that I used to speak fluent Swedish. And I got a job with government to be an interpreter between Iranian immigrants and refugee and Swedish government. And then I decided to move because the situation in Sweden at that time wasn't that easy either. But I decided to move, and that's how I ended up in Turkey and finally in Canada.
What are your parents saying at this point? Were they? I mean, I guess now we're getting into the 90s. Would they encourage you to come back to Iran, or were they encouraging you to keep going on your journey from country to country, finding your place?
Uh, Definitely, they were not encouraging me to go back to Iran, but they were more encouraging me to keep pushing forward, to go on. They were asking me if I need money and things like that, and I was always no. I'll figure it out myself. I'll work and I make my own money. I felt so indebted to their sacrifices that they did for us. And I always wanted to be independent from, I felt like they did enough for us. And now it's my time. It's up to me to make my own life and to make something out of the opportunities that I have. But no, they were constantly kind of supportive and go forward, and that's it.
So, Faye, you end up in Montreal, Canada, and you've been working as a hairstylist. You have some ambitions as a makeup artist. This is the turning point where you end up going to Concordia University for engineering. And even at that point, there's some pushback in terms of your journey, because at this point now you're in your mid-20s and considered old to be starting post-secondary school, which of course isn't that old, but I guess it is when some of the other students are 18 or 19. What can you tell me about that time?
Yeah, so I actually started a school based on the fact that somebody told me that you're too old to start going to university. And I thought, like, I don't take no for an answer, and I'm not too old or too young for anything. So I decided to sign up for Concordia University, and I talked to the admission office, Linda McDonald, and Linda looked at my background and profile and things that I have done. And she said one thing to me. She said that, okay, I'm going to give you the opportunity to join Concordia, but it's up to you what you do with it. That kind of stuck with me, and I started studying really hard, feeling that I'm too old and I need to finish a school faster. So I was taking, instead of like 12 credit per semester, I used to take 20, 21 credit per semester, while I was also working as a waitress and bartender at an Iranian restaurant in Montreal. So sometimes I had to work double shifts, kind of work in the afternoon and then in the evening, and then go home, clean up, come back and serve breakfast, and then go to school. And it was a fun time. I was always proud of myself. Like my parents, actually, speaking of my parents were not that happy that I'm working at a restaurant. They were like, "Oh, we send you money. Why do you go and work in a restaurant?" And to me, it was no. I'm learning. I'm learning culture. I'm learning how to socialize. I'm learning to stand on my feet while I'm also studying. So that's how the experience was.
Well, you end up. By the way, what happened to the hairstyling? I mean, that and the makeup. Was that? Did engineering capture your heart so much so that you lost your passion for hair?
Actually, it's interesting because at the same time that I had this conversation, I was into a makeup artist, and I had started a makeup artist class. And in fact, I won a prize in Ontario for makeup artists.
Of course, you did.
I
Yes.
got the second prize, and then I thought that, okay, I can study, and what is the worst thing that can happen? If I don't like it, I'll go back to makeup artist. But then over time, yes, engineering and problem solving. I have this bug for problem solving. And that kind of captured my heart enough that I never went back to being a hairstylist, except for now there is COVID-19 and I end up cutting my own hair.
Right. Well, there would be nothing wrong with being there's incredible people doing incredible work in the hairstyling industry, and some of them are Iranians. But I have the sense that had you gone into that field, you would now own a chain of 1,000 salons because of your your abilities and ambitions. You end up excelling academically at Concordia, as you say, and you soon put your engineering degrees to good use in IT and communication technologies, I suppose. But you also begin running companies, and this was an interesting one for me because I was again thinking about you, and I was thinking, how does one learn to run a company? You've said you believe in something called experiential learning. Can you describe what that is?
Problem solving is a basic tool of life for me. You have a problem. How do you address it? And that problem, and I think what engineering taught me is more about systematic approach with how do you divide a problem to smaller pieces and start evaluating each one, and then how do you collaborate with a group of people to solve it. So that was when you take that as a basic tool in life, then you get interested in starting a company and you say, okay, I don't know anything about starting the company. Where do I start? You start by saying, where do I register a company? Do I have to register a company? So that's how I started. And that's what I call learning while you're doing something. And also not being afraid of asking for help and finding people that can help you in that journey. And some of those people end up backstabbing you. I have my fair share of being backstabbed many times. And some of those people stay with you for life. I have one of my team members that I started. It was one of the individuals that I started my first company with him. Like he joined our team. I was his family member in his wedding. I was the person that was his family member in his wedding. And 20 some years after, he's still working as one of the executive team members at Mimic with me. So there were people that backstabbed me and they're no longer in my life. But again, you don't hold grudge for any of these things. You just learn and you move on how to do things better next time.
Why don't you hold a grudge? What's the tell me about why it's important to not hold a grudge.
It's a negative energy that takes energy off of you more than off of the other people that you're holding the grudge on. Right? If I get so negative and my heart gets so dark that, oh, this person ruined my life, oh, this person did this, or oh, this person, I never gonna do anything for them, or no, in reverse. I wish you all the best in your life, and may the universe teach you how to be a better person, and you move on. You don't spend an epsilon of time on thinking about that person.
I gotcha.
And you don't spend an epsilon of a small corner of your spirit, mind, and heart and emotion to maintain a negative thought of that, because it hurts you more than it hurts the other person. The other person, as far as I'm concerned, may not even know that you're so upset with them, or they don't care. So what's the point?
So Fay, since you ultimately chose the high-tech sector as your career path, you've been involved in many innovative projects. We talked about all the patents, all the companies you founded. One of them, if I dare say, that's close to my heart because of the way cancer has affected my family, is the app you developed which enables cancer patients to manage their treatment options. Tell me what your motivation was in that project.
Anything I do, I look at it from my point of view. Like, I've been in this situation and there wasn't a tool that can help me manage the situation better. Both my parents are cancer survivors. In fact, my father is still under basically monitor for his kidney cancer. And unfortunately, I have lost dear family members and friends to cancer. So when I was given the opportunity to join a company as the CEO, that they were all about pharmaceutical discovery of medicine for personalized cancer treatment, I realized that there is no solution that could help a cancer patient and the care providers of the cancer patient to manage that treatment and that journey better, which I went through myself with my parents or with the loved ones that I lost. So I thought, why not applying my technical skill set with a view of a patient and family member of patient to deliver a solution that can help them through that journey. So I put myself in the middle of that entire experience and I led that initiative and I kind of mapped what I wish I had available to me for these patients and family members and care providers. And I put the team together again. I built the team to help deliver that, and that's one of the solutions that I'm very proud of, especially after we launched a solution and we did a trial with cancer survivors, patients, and those who they were either survivors or patient at that time. And when they went through that experience and they were working on that application, they constantly said, "Oh, this is friendly. This is useful. This helps me." For the survivors, they were saying, "I wish we had this when we were going through their journey."
Yes.
And for me, it was like check, check, check. So everything is exactly what I want it to be.
I love this so much because I think it's a great maxim, which is if you're going to create something that you would want to use. If you're going to write a song that you would want to hear. If you're going to bake a cake that you would want to eat. It really makes sense, right? When you talk about supply and demand, people always ask, well, is there a demand for this? It's like, well, yes, I would want it, right? It's a great idea and a great way to look at your initiatives. So let me ask you about this latest one now that you've been in the news for as well, and this is back to what you talk about the peer-to-peer communication and these platforms that we would create on our own personal devices. And one of these potential applications on these platforms is this technology for contact tracing or contact tracking, which can be a useful tool in the hands of trying to combat the spread of the coronavirus. So tell me about this new technology, again, with a mind towards the fact that myself and a lot of people listening aren't necessarily tech experts. What is it that you're creating that can help us in this pandemic?
Absolutely. So when COVID-19 happened, and this notion of contact tracing started bubbling up, although at that time they were not calling it contact tracing, the name formulated a few months after. We realized that in order for us to, because they said that one of the first information that came out is that you could have been in proximity of someone with COVID-19 within the past 14 days and not knowing about it.
Yes.
So I immediately realized that, this is about proximity within the X period of time. So what if we can develop an application, and our platform, our hybrid edge technology platform, automatically has this built-in capability of devices discovering each other, devices seeing each other. And without revealing any user information, devices keep a track of each other without knowing that this is Fay or this is this phone number. And I realized that, and with capability that our system has, data remains on device. Again, this is a concept that I refer to it as almost like the same way that you have money in your pocket, the same way you need to have your data in your pocket. So it's almost like a data wallet. There's a data wallet notion that the data remains on your device. And therefore now On one side, our devices can discover each other. On another side, our devices keep our own data in our own device and in our own control, that I can say who can see it or who cannot. And at the same time, because these devices are now cloud, each device is a cloud, I can send direct message to a group of devices, right? So I can create a communication between these devices, again, without the necessity to always go to cloud.
Okay, sorry. So just let me
Go
just
ahead.
stop for a second. So are you saying that? Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Sorry, I'm not quite understanding. Are you saying that I would walk into a room, and then on my iPhone or on my Android phone or whatever it is, I would be able to track? I would know if anybody in the room has COVID-19?
No, 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 no. You walk into the room and devices are discovering each other.
Okay.
Now, there are some address, so we create this random address. Your device now holds a series of random address that you don't have visibility to from the other devices. So it's almost like you have an address book.
Okay.
Your device automatically collects a bunch of addresses that is not connected to, it doesn't say Jian and it doesn't say his email or it doesn't say his phone number. It's just an address. It's like a
Okay.
PO box that nobody knows who that PO box belongs to. So you hold a bunch of address and I am in the same room, I'm holding a bunch of address. Then let's say that I get diagnosed that I have COVID-19. Now, the moment I have that lab confirmation that I have COVID-19 and that lab confirmation arrive in my device, the system automatically goes through that address book
Okay.
and that through that address book send an anonymous message to all those addresses. One of them is you receive that message that says somebody who was in your proximity in the past 14 days or in these days
I see.
is now diagnosed with COVID-19. You don't know who this email message came from and you don't know anything about it except for an alert.
It's not necessarily while you're in the room. Because if there's three
Exactly.
people in the room and I get the message, I'm going to know. It doesn't matter if your name's not on it. I'm going to say, well, one of you two is infected, right?
Exactly. No, absolutely. That's a huge intrusion on privacy. In fact, I once wrote an article and I never published it that I said these contact tracing applications remind me of the yellow badges of Holocaust. Because soon we're going to get a badge that, oh, you're a COVID-19 patient
But
if
this
we
is
go
but
that direction.
but Faye, this is the concern. I mean, I know there's been some controversy around this. You've been asked about it, but this is the concern that this same technology is then used to track protesters in Hong Kong or striking trade unionists or Black Lives Matter activists. So how do you protect that? How do you secure the technology away from it being used that way?
Absolutely, and that's only the way you protect it is that you own your data and your data gets processed on your device and you control who, when, for how long can see your data. The example we give is that imagine you had a break-in in your home. You ask the law enforcement to come to your place. They come in, knock on the door, open the door, look at the list of things that are missing, look at the list of things that are there, and then they leave. You don't give the key to your home to them and say, given I already had a break in, from now on you can come in
Right.
anytime.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, anybody can come in anytime and grab anything they want, right? You give them access, they get a report, and they leave without taking anything else with them. And that's what data should be treated moving forward. This is a very risky situation, and it's a risky time because what Apple and Google are suggesting, and they approach it with, they adding this capability to the operating system. And that capability is about Bluetooth address tracing. And contact tracing is not only about Bluetooth address tracing. It's not only about that contact tracing because now I'm a patient. Now I need to access my healthcare provider. As a technologist, I know that from the time that my data leaves my device to the time that my data gets to my healthcare provider, there are few middlemen in the way as well, with a risk to get a snapshot of your data too.
Right, right.
Right. So what I'm saying is that now at the time that I get sick and I need to have my healthcare professional, instead of going through all those middlemen, now the healthcare provider can come to my device to see a series of data and still provide me the service that I need.
Right.
And that's where the edge cloud versus cloud is, right? Because with cloud, the healthcare provider need to integrate with the back end of an application through the cloud, a remote
Which potentially
place.
anyone can
Imagine,
see. Right.
imagine when you have a break-in, instead of inviting law enforcement to come to your home, first you move all your stuff to another storage or another place and tell law enforcement, go look at it there, right? So you don't do that in physical world. And in digital world, we now have the opportunity to say, no, healthcare provider, you come and integrate with me directly on my device and I give you some access to see, but I may not want to give you the right to copy that information because tomorrow I'm going to be on another healthcare provider. And maybe there are certain information that I don't want to disclose to people. These are my information.
But well, I was going to say, you understand that this is scary for some people, right? That any kind of information that we put, onto that personal device, I mean, I have friends who won't use WhatsApp, or even I know somebody who doesn't even use Gmail because they're so scared of more violations or invasions of their privacy. So what do you say to those people?
I say they're right. I say they're right and they should be scared. And even I told the Canadian government that I will not download that application myself. In fact, I've stopped updating my operating system on my phone because it's almost like they're promoting security by obfuscation, meaning that they're not telling you what they're changing and how that impacts you long term. So, and I told the government that in order for contact tracing to be adopted successfully, you need about 60% or more in any region at any time where the group of people are together. And in order for you to reach that 60%, you need to ensure user that your data remain on your device and in your control, and that data doesn't leave your device. And that's not only through the contact tracing time, but through the entire experience. Telling people that don't worry about it, it's not going to eliminate my doubt to download it.
So what is the status?
And it has to be an application so that I can delete it versus an OS update. I'm sorry I cut you.
It's okay. I was going to. What is the progress of this now? Where is this app with the contact tracing app? What's its status at this point?
Sure. So in order for us to publish that application for consumer, as per Apple and Google mandates, we can only publish an application for direct to consumer for COVID-19 contact tracing if the government is supporting it. Otherwise, we cannot publish that. So, but for enterprise, this notion of solution for going back to workplace safely, we have a lot of conversation. For direct to consumer, we cannot publish it unless government support it, and government so far has been silent about it, except that they said that they're going with Apple, Google, Shopify, and BlackBerry. And we're still remaining proactive, reaching out to them. The communication, unfortunately, is one way versus two way, but being who I am, not taking no for an answer, I'm still pushing.
Which government are you talking about?
The Prime Minister announced that a couple of weeks ago that they're launching an application for contact tracing.
Sorry, this is the Canadian government.
Yes,
I see. So
Prime Minister Trudeau for Canada announced a couple of weeks ago that they are working with Apple, Google, Shopify, and BlackBerry to launch a contact tracing application for Canadians using a collection of technology from these providers. That create a lot of suspicion because Apple and Google approach is OS update approach. It is not clear what is the role of one of the largest shopping platform provider in the world is
Right.
in launching the application. So we'll see which way. But there hasn't been any successful contact tracing launch anywhere in the world, mainly because people are afraid of adopting it for the right reason.
Sure. But you're in LA. Is there a reason why you're just going to the Canadian government? I mean, what about the US government, or for that matter, UK or German government or whomever?
We have a lot of conversation with all governments. We have a lot of conversation with all governments, both in US, Canada, UK, Germany, and it is still ongoing. For some reason, they're constantly going back to Apple and Google approach versus doing the right thing or taking the right approach. Is it because Apple and Google are the two largest technology provider in the world? Could be. Is it because the interest on keeping user data private is not there as much as governments are talking about it? I don't know. But as I said, on that front, we're still in discussions. We're still reaching out and trying to educate the governments around the world. But on the enterprise side, we have a lot of conversations and discussions and potential customer deployment with large enterprises for going back to workplace safely.
It is really, I really have I have enjoyed talking to you. It is, I kind of suspected it would be this way, but it's realized my big dreams of talking to you in the sense that your self-confidence and your view on life and what you've done is so inspirational, and I really appreciate it in getting a chance to talk to you and have your voice speak out to all those who are listening across the diaspora. I want to end off with a couple of zoom out again and end off with a couple of more general questions that I thought of as I thought of you and some of what you've said along the way in your journey. And you've said that people starting a company or involved in a business in any sector need to embrace technology these days, and you said to not be afraid of it. And, there may be some people of Iranian descent thinking, okay, this is great, and you're building your apps, and you're talking about all this, but why do I need to embrace technology to start my real estate firm, my family law practice, or my carpet store, or my Persian restaurant? What would you tell them?
It's the future. Technology enables you to reach out to wider audiences, almost like it opens the door to other possibilities for you versus just the four walls of your business, and investing in technology for your business and for your operation is extremely important for the sustainability of your business nowadays. Your customer, if it's about customer acquisition, if it's about delivery, if it's about scheduling staff better, if it's about improving the operational efficiency, the more in-depth knowledge that drives from technology back to business that enables you to fine-tune your business and expand your business better. So it's the core of our life in future,
Gotcha. Yeah.
That is important. That is important. But I think there's also another important thing that we should not forget, if I may add that, along with the technology, is art and or artists. Because I always look at these two as heart versus logic. Heart is the one that pumps the blood in the body and gives us life. Logic is the one that allows us to think. and the two need to work in harmony. So while we're leading on the tech sector, we should not forget about the importance of art, and we should not forget about supporting artists and building platforms that connects artists with their audience in a more direct way, that they can maximize the return on their work by eliminating the middleman, and by bringing the multiple source of revenue back to the artist and their fans and followers.
Which is also a timely reminder that we need those platforms in a moment of pandemic when artists cannot do it on a and physically in front of cannot perform concerts or have packed art gallery openings or whatever it might be. Here. Let's hope those platforms continue to proliferate. And thank you for saying that. You know, before I let you go, then let me finish off with ambition, because you are clearly, you have proven with your track record and in this conversation that you're certainly not afraid of ambition and you're drawn to it. How many hours a day do you work? What's your how do you navigate a balanced lifestyle? I'm sure you've logically plotted out that it's important to have a balanced lifestyle. So how do you not burn out?
I love what I do, Jian. As cliche as it may sound, I really love what I do. So it doesn't feel like work. In fact, for me, it's a form of creativity. I do work 12 to 14 hours a day. And for the past few months of post-COVID-19, that included even weekends because we have nothing else to do.
You could suntan, you could read a book, you could go for a walk. What do you mean there's nothing else to do? You don't,
Yeah. Well, I do watch a lot of
this
movies.
is like this is where you get called a workaholic.
Yeah, well, I do watch a lot of movie. I'm a movie buff.
Okay.
I'm a documentary buff. Actually, I post a lot of my favorite documentaries and movies as well. But at the end of the day, even when I'm having fun and I'm watching something, I'm thinking, we could create something like this that does this and that and that, and
Right,
we,
right.
along this discussion, we are
جلوی
sorry.
خودت نمیتونی بگیری دیگه. You have to create an app for everything.
Exactly. نمیشه جلوشو گرفت. We actually started an organization just because of that. We started an organization, like for instance, for United East. We started an organization with Erwin Khachikian, my two business partners, Shevash Alamuti and Sam Armani, to help artists. Like, I have so many artists around me that I keep hearing their problem. And I thought, you know what? We need to roll up the sleeves and create an organization for them. That we bring diaspora progressive artists from conflicting countries on same stage to perform together.
Nice.
And we had big plan for that. But that's the thing I am. I mean, even when I'm relaxing, the word for me is always there are problems that need to be solved, and I wish I had more power to address them all.
So if you think about the girl who told the joke back in Iran and who pushed back against authorities and who was the rebel with the haircuts and all of that, and who left Iran when you were 17, what would you tell her now, as the success that you've become, one of the greatest life lessons you've learned so far is?
I wish you had given me that question before to think about it. What do I say to them before? What do I tell her?
What do you tell the young Fay?
به قول ایرانی‌ها دمت گرم. I tell her that you always find your way. So don't be afraid. Don't be worried. You always find your way in this life. You know, just rely on trust yourself, trust your gut feeling. That's very important. Trust your gut feeling. Don't doubt yourself. Just keep on marching forward. You find it. You find your way. And you're a lucky one, by the way. I would tell her that too, that you're a lucky one. Just because the fact that I managed to come out and many people haven't and they're still suffering, it's being lucky. Yes, I took an action, I took the steps, but a lot of people did the same but haven't been able to unchain themselves from the current situation.
I thank you so much for this today.
Thank you, Jian. Such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Khudafis.
And looking forward to staying in touch with you.
That would be fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Khudafis.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Fay Arjomandi. She's an entrepreneur, thought leader, founder, and CEO at Mimic Technology. She joined me today from Los Angeles, California. Sounds of Shaya there, live, playing that keyboard as we say goodbye. Thank you so much for listening today. I was wondering if it was going to be distracting. Shaya's disrupting this now. It sounds good. Keep going. This is Full Time for Roqe today. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to our whole team for putting this together. Info at roqemedia.com is where to find us, or on any of our platforms. Please subscribe. And I want to go out on some music. So, you know how Fay, can you talk and play at the same time, Shaya?
Yes,
You know how Fay seemed like she was going from one place to another,
yes.
nomadic all over the world.
Yes.
So I've got a song for you. Bilete Yek Tarafe, One-Way Ticket,
Yep.
from 2014, from Sogand. Yeah?
Yes.
You approve. Thanks again, everybody. I'm Jian Ghomeshi. Mizun Bashin.